이거는 이제 한국에 대한 영상이나 드라마를 보면 안 나오는 건데
And I knew that Koreans were polite, but there's a difference in being polite and actually like making a friend with someone, you know. And I was worried about that.
That they've been pushing kind of like, oh, but it must be so hard for you. It must be so difficult to be alone in Korea. But I'm a Korean person, so I can help you. If you need help with this, then I will help you. And I can be your friend and I can do this and that for you.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I went out to the street and I asked people, how is Korea different from your expectations? What brought you to Korea? So why did you decide to come to Korea?
My dad used to work here from 2015 to 2020. So I just ended up coming to Korea for education because I wanted to study abroad. I was like, okay, Korea is a cool country to study in. I was really curious about East Asian history in general. I really love like Chinese history. So that's why my major is like international relations because I can understand the diplomacy and the genuine connections between each country. And it made me like, okay, I found a good enough major in Yonsei. So I ended up coming here because of that.
일단 한국 문화를 공부하고 싶었고
네.
또 한국어를 유창하게 하고 싶어서 아무래도 계속 미국에 있으면은 한국어를 쓸 기회가 그렇게 많지 않다 보니까 한국에 오게 됐습니다.
한국에 오기 전부터 공부를 하셨던 건가요?
네, 미국에서 예전부터 독학을 했고 이제 한국에 와서 어학당도 다니고 그랬어요. 네.
Yeah, well, certainly. So I work for a company that helps small churches in other countries outside of the U.S. with small starting churches. And there were certainly other options in East Asia that I was interested in, even some in the UK as well. But the work that the team was doing here, you know, it was very like relationship based. It was very small community based. That really excited me. So I think learning about the kind of work here was what really drew me. But below that as well, I've always had a love for East Asia. This part of the world has been a draw for me. Getting to do something I love in a place that I've always been intrigued by. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. It's like, of course I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
First of all, I'm a huge fan of K-pop. I've been a fan for like 10 years. Since I graduated in a graphic design university, I started to get interested into the video field. And since I'm also a dancer in my free time, here there are a lot of dance videos thanks to K-pop. So I started to have also the interest to study this kind of job environment. So during all these years, I decided I wanted to learn about Korea habit, not only for K-pop and other stuff, but also for the society and the living here itself.
It started a couple of years ago, or actually when I graduated high school. I was bored. I had a gap year and I was just bored. So I studied a lot of languages. And then while I was studying a lot of languages, I came across a documentary about K-pop. I was like, okay, this is good. This is gonna go global. So I better start studying Korean too, because it seemed like it's gonna be useful. The more I studied Korean, the more I fell in love with the language and the culture. So I ended up only studying Korean, and then I came here to study Korean.
I just graduated college, so I'm looking for somewhere to possibly start a new part of my life. And unlike even a New York or something, there's just so much to do here. It's crazy. Like, it's huge. Every corner has something. Especially, you know, if you have friends here with you, it would be the perfect place to live in your younger adult years, I feel.
So today's topic is expectations versus reality. So there are a lot of videos on TikTok and YouTube describing Korea. People come to Korea with their expectations. So the first question is, what was better than your expectations?
Something that was really shocking to me was how disciplined Koreans are. In the sense that I'm not saying that people in my country are not disciplined. It's just that small things like just leaving your purses around or leaving your belongings around, nobody really like steals it, and they just like do not touch anybody else's belongings. And also things like getting on the train, and sometimes the conductor doesn't really check your ticket, so they still buy their ticket and they get on. So very often I've just seen that they're really disciplined in that sense, and they follow the rules very strictly. It makes me feel like my space is safe and my belongings will be safe, and also it helps me also become a bit more disciplined. So that's quite nice. Yeah.
있어요. 한국어를 뭐라고 하는지 모르겠지만 그 친한 사람들한테 그 나이 더 많으면은 뭐 언니 오빠라고 부르든지 아니면 더 그 어리면은 그럼 뭐 동생으로 대하잖아요.
네.
한국 사람들의 얘기를 들으면은 그런 문화를 안 좋아하는 사람들 많잖아요.
맞아요.
왜냐면 나이 1살 차이만 나도 뭐 언니 오빠라고 불러야 되는데 그거 좀 꺼리는 사람들이 많더라고요. 근데 저는 약간 외국인으로서 그런 문화를 통해 더 친한 느낌 오히려 들었어요. 왜냐면 진짜 가족이 아닌데
네.
뭐 언니라고 부르면은 더 친해지는 느낌이 들었어요. 저는 개인적으로. 해외에서 살면은 조금 외로울 수도 있잖아요.
맞아요.
근데 약간 한국에서 가족을 생기는 느낌 들었어요. 네.
I think primarily I was worried about just being a foreigner. Like, will people accept me? Will Korean people like me? You know, will I fit in? Will I be able to make friends? And I knew that Koreans were polite, but there's a difference in being polite and actually like making a friend with someone, you know. And I was worried about that. But the ability to connect with people and people's willingness to spend time and get to know me, it's made me feel really, really welcome. It's different than I was expecting in that it's more similar to the US than I was expecting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's more westernized than I imagined. I think I kind of had a more, I don't know, like mysterious, kind of like super foreign view of what, you know, like you see things online and movies and you see the palace and you see like the history and you're like, oh man, like there's this kind of, I would call it like this kind of mystique of historic grandeur about Korea. But then you walk past like a Burger King, you know, and it's like, oh man, like the Western influence is very here. But a little bit more invisible than that, there's just kind of that westernized kind of feel in the air sometimes, where you can really feel that cultural reciprocity has happened. And so it's more than I was expecting. Yeah.
To be honest, I had quite low expectations when I came here. I'm quite a realistic and boring person, so I didn't have that high expectations. And also, before coming here, on social media, I saw a lot of videos from mainly foreign girls and women who talked about their experience with Korean men. And from these videos, I came to the conclusion that Korean men are horrible
Horrible and trash.
and trash and fuckboys.
Yeah, fuckboys.
And you have to watch out because you are gonna be harassed. So I came here with the mindset that I have to brace myself to get harassed. But then when I came here, it wasn't that bad that I thought it would be. But that might also have something to do with because I'm not I don't like going to clubs and things like that. I don't put myself in those situations. So that might be one of the reasons, like I might not have exposed myself to much of these men that people talk about in social media.
Yeah.
A lot of influencers and foreigners say it's very solo travel friendly. So I felt pretty safe both as a woman and as a solo traveler, and I agree with that because I could do almost all my stuff alone. But I also felt that this wasn't true at all. I mean, the society here, you can do a lot of things alone if you want, but when you go around, everyone is with someone else, either a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a huge group of friends. Even just many typical things you can eat are to be shared. So I struggled a bit with this.
Because I think there's so many things that are better than my expectation. Generally, kindness-wise, especially being a black person, you do worry no matter where you go in the world, whether race will be a huge problem. For me, even just, like having like 사장님's coming out and they're like, oh, you want some free rice or you want this? And I'm like, thank you. Because it makes you feel welcome. I think that was better than my expectation. I was preparing for the worst, but I just do that just in case, so I don't like feel bad if it happens, right?
Then what about worse than your expectations? So something disappointed you. Do you have any experience about this?
Honestly speaking, when I first came, I expected at least like the immigration office to speak English, but they don't really speak English. So for somebody who's recently come to the country for studies, for work, I would like expect there to be like at least a system of maybe translators available for foreigners here to make it easier for them. I'm not saying that foreigners should not learn Korean. You should definitely learn the language of the country you're living in. Just because you should, live comfortably, and you should you should be proud to learn the language, and it's just better. At the same time, I wouldn't expect everybody to speak fluent Korean. So that's why it would be really nice to be helpful towards them and considerate towards them, especially considering the government is planning to increase the capacity of foreigners in Korea in the next few years. So that was one thing I was disappointed at. And then this thing, I personally wasn't really disappointed, but there could be people disappointed by it because I know so many people watch K-dramas and K-pop music videos and these shows. They have this fantasy like expectation of Korea where like you're walking on the streets and you probably like find like a ideal man or like an oppa, as they say. This really was not my this wasn't on my list, but I know people who've told me that they've been disappointed by that. At the end of the day, Korea is just another country. It will have pros and cons. It's not really like the fantasy like place that K-dramas or K-pop music videos that show it to be. Like, yes, some of the mannerisms in those details in the TV or entertainment things, like they might be real, but that doesn't mean that it's true to the core of the country. So it's something people should just be genuinely aware about so that they don't get disappointed.
생각보다 좀 별로인 거 하나 있긴 해요.
네, 어떤 게 있을까요?
지금은 잘 모르겠는데 예전에 드라마를 봤을 때 한국에는 어디 가도 길에 약간 포장마차 많을 줄 알았거든요. 왜냐면 항상 그런 문화가 드라마에서 나왔는데 와보니까 잘 없잖아요.
맞아요.
근데 그런 거에 약간 환상이 생겼어요. 그래서 드라마 보고 한국 가게 되면 꼭 그런 데 가고 싶다. 거기 가서 술 한잔 하고 싶다. 이런 생각이 있었는데 이제 없는 건 아니지만 약간 잦아서 가야 돼요.
맞아요.
네, 그래서 그거는 좀
옛날에는 어딜 가나 있었는데
그래요?
이제 뭐 서울시나 이런 데서 이게 좀 지저분하다 아니면은 허가를 받지 않고 영업하는 곳이 있어서 지금은 지정된 곳에서만 이제 포장마차를 운영하다 보니까 찾아가야 돼요. 뭐 을지로나 종로나 이런 데로 맞죠. 또 다른 점이 있을까요? 약간 실망스러웠던 점?
이거는 이제 한국에 대한 영상이나 드라마를 보면 안 나오는 건데 길에다 침 뱉는 거 너무 적응이 안 돼요. 저거는 진짜
저도 너무 싫어요.
그런 점은 좀 고쳐줬으면은 감사하겠습니다.
I will say not a lot because I've had a really good experience. But if I had to think of like one bad thing, I don't know. Sometimes like the older ladies at bus stops will like push you out of the way. Like what is that, like the Ajma spirit. Sometimes you just get in the way and they push you out of the way.
Like before coming to Korea, I also heard that there are a lot of sects. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. But then when I got here, I realized that there are much more sects than I thought it would be. They are very actively trying to recruit you in the street. I've heard it's a thing, and I think that's true that they specifically prey on foreigners because you're in a vulnerable position as a foreigner. Most of the people that I've suspected wanted to recruit me to a sect, that they've been pushing kind of like, oh, but it must be so hard for you, it must be so difficult to be alone in Korea, but I'm a Korean person, so I can help you. If you need help with this, then I will help you, and I can be your friend, and I can do this and that for you.
As I came here alone, I just face like Korean people alone. I don't have our other foreign friends with whom make a foreign group or just looking like a tourist. I feel that even when I go to people and try to speak in Korean, they immediately either answer in Korean or either they immediately answer in English without even thinking that I could speak Korean. Even when I spoke Korean first. And in general, I feel that even little things like taking some coffees for the fact that you need a phone number, sometimes a Korean bank account, you can't do a lot of things. And this doesn't only affect you as a people living here, but also as a tourist. I felt that I couldn't do many regular things because I didn't have Korean card or something like that.
I'm not gonna lie. Okay, in hand with the same thing that I said earlier about the kindness, there's an interesting thing, and it's not everybody, but just select few people. I've noticed that the ajishis especially, I have had several run-ins or interactions where it just seems like they don't want me here. Like I went to go get a T-Money card, and I speak Korean. I tried to just ask, can I have a T-Money card? Do you know where they are? And then he gave me one, and then I had to put the card down to load the card. And I thought it was done, and so I picked it back up, and he said, "Put it back down." And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I just didn't understand you." So sometimes the curtness, again, if you're learning Korean, you'll recognize it more versus, I guess, if you don't understand what they're saying to you at all, it wouldn't really matter. I know when you're using a certain formality with me, and that is one thing that was below my expectation.